Good morning on behalf of Attorney Karen Jimeno. I'm George Cahiles. Two young councilor aspirants who are proud activists for their advocacies and political stand will take the spotlight here at the forefront. Tobit Cruz, a youth leader and river environment advocate, is seeking re-election as Taytay councilor under the Akbayan Party. He is known for challenging the status quo with grassroots solution. Can his brand of bold, community-driven leadership earn him a fresh mandate in the Taytay Council? With us this morning is an incumbent Taytay councilor seeking his second term, Councilor Tobit Cruz. Good morning, Consi Tobit.
Good morning, George. Thank you for having me here.
Salamat. Yeah, it's nice to have you here in the show. Now, to start off, we will be showing you some photos of some representatives of Akbayan in the past in Congress. And bibigyan ka namin ng 20 seconds to discuss or tell us something about them, what you know about them, or paano ka na-inspire, anecdote, etc.
All right.
Okay, so let's start off with this first photo. Okay, this is Eta Rosales, who served as a three-termer congresswoman and the chair of the Commission on Human Rights. Okay, so you have your 20 seconds.
Eta Rosales is one of my lodies, no? Ito yung mga hinahangaan nating tao. Unang representative ng Akbayan Party in the Congress. She was a human rights victim herself during the martial law era. Pero and served as a human rights or the Secretary for Human Rights sa CHR during the time of Pinoy. Isa siya sa mga institusyon ng Akbayan.
Okay, your time is over, but my follow-up question is what do you think was the biggest accomplishment of Congresswoman Eta Rosales?
Si Eta ay nagpasa ng maraming batas sa Akbayan, yung mga unang napasa ng Akbayan, and at the same time push really for the yung mga biktima ng martial law ay makakuha ng proper compensation during her time.
And acknowledgement, of course, through the law. Okay, the second photo. We have Walden Bello, a professor and a three-termer Akbayan congressman in Congress. So your 20 seconds starts now.
To be honest, I had like 2 or 3 times lang na meet si Walden Bello, but I could say that he is one of the most intelligent persons that I know here in the country. A very idealistic person. Once again, a former representative of Akbayan in the Congress, but parted ways with the party a few years back.
Okay, but you know, even though he parted ways with Akbayan, what do you think about his contribution to the party?
Still a progressive candidate. Akbayan pushed during the time of Eta, during the time of Walden, for legislations that pushed for cheaper medicines, for legislations that pushed for hospital anti-deposit bills in the Congress. No? So mga batas na nakakatulong talaga sa mamamayan.
Okay, so let's have the third photo. Okay. Of course, we know Senator Risa Ontiveros, who served as two-term Akbayan representative in Congress before becoming a senator. So timer starts now. 20 seconds.
As the current vice chairperson of Akbayan Party, it's such an honor to work with this woman. No? Senator Risa is a champion not just of women, but also of health and other progressive stand. No? Well known for, of course, fighting for Pogo and fighting for our claims sa West Philippine Sea. Mahal na mahal ang bayan. Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Paano mo i-describe on a personal note si Senator Risa?
Si Senator...
Ano pagkakilala mo sa kanya?
Yeah. The same. She's one of the bravest women I know. Pero if you talk to her, she's also the calmest. I know that you could hear her from her interviews. Napakakalmado magsalita. Pero alam mong may laman at matapang. Okay.
But you have meron ka bang mga memories with Senator Risa na sa palagay mo hindi mo makakalimutan?
The first time I met Senator Risa, sa ilang mga meetings sa Akbayan Congress, she would always ask me ano yung pwede maitulong sa Taytay. She actually sponsored the construction of a shared service facility sa Tianggian sa Taytay. So ganun siyang kapersonal na tumulong sa amin sa Taytay at gusto talaga niyang maipahatid yung serbisyo ng Kongreso sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Pilipinas.
Na nagbibigay ngayon siguro ng maraming trabaho.
Kabuhayan para sa amin.
Alright, so our fourth photo. Si Attorney Barry Gutierrez, a one-term Akbayan Party representative and became the spokesperson of Vice President Leni Robredo. So timer starts now.
I was about to say no. Siguro mas kilala si Attorney Barry ngayon as the former spokesperson of the Office of the Vice President during the time of Attorney Lenny Robredo as VP. Pero Attorney Barry was once a representative of Akbayan. I forget, parang pangatlo na yan sa generation sa Akbayan sa Congress. No? Again, very progressive and intellectual.
What do you think is one lesson that you learned from him being a representative of Akbayan and siguro as a spokesperson of the Vice President, former Vice President?
Not just with Attorney Barry, no, but with the rest of the representatives of Akbayan, it is always to be firm with our stand and to always fight for what is right. Parang it's easy to say that, pero kapag mga progresibo kasi yung pinaglalaban natin, may makakalaban at makakalaban ka, may hindi mag-agree sa mga stand mo. But these Akbayan representatives would always remind us na we have to be firm with our stance and we have to be very clear with our principles.
Did you meet him?
Yes, a couple of times.
How about
also.
the Vice President?
Yes, Attorney Lenny. I worked with her even when I was still barangay kagawad. Sa aming barangay, tinayo yung kauna-unahang learning hub sa Pilipinas in partnership with the OVP.
Any personal experience with the former Vice President?
A lot, actually. She was supposed to be our ninang.
Nabili kayo ng pajama sa Taytay?
Yes. She visited Taytay a couple of times. During the time of pandemic, sa amin siya nagpapatahin ng mga PPEs. Nag-donate siya ng mga machines sa Taytay para doon mag-produce ng PPEs na pinapamigay ng OVP sa iba't ibang mga area sa Pilipinas.
Alright, so let's go to the next photo. This is Percy Sendanya, the incumbent Akbayan representative. He endorsed the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. So, timer starts now.
We call her Mother Percy. We call him Mother Percy sa Akbayan. No? Na-meet ko siya hindi lang sa Akbayan when he was still part of the National Youth Commission and the 10 Accomplished Youth Organizations Award. Sinasabihang baluktot ang muka, pero again, pinakadiretsong paninindigan na kilala ko sa Kongreso ngayon, si Representative Percy Serdanya.
Okay, speaking of, when you first heard of that attack, personal attack ni Senator Bato de la Rosa kay Percy, anong naisip mo?
Ang naisip ko lang talaga, it was such a low blow kasi alam ko na stroke survivor si Congressman Percy, no? So it's such a low blow. Pero alam ko naman na hindi siya maaapektuhan ng mga ganong klaseng pambabato sa kanya.
All right, now let's go to the next photo. We have Attorney Shaljokno. Of course, we know him as a human rights lawyer and the first nominee of Akbayan for this election. Now, go ahead.
I get this a lot. Magkamukha kami ni Shaljokno. Pareho kami malaki ang ngipin, pareho kami naka-shades. We wear the same shirt all the time, no? Teal. Sa Taytay, they would really call me as the Shaljokno of Taytay. I invited him during our town civic parade and people would ask, tatay mo ba siya?
And nga, nakikita natin, you have a poster na side by side kayo. May ganun ba? May mga sinasabi ba yung mga kababayan mo na
madami po.
Kayo?
During the fiesta, again, we were together. People were wondering, bakit Cruz ang apelido mo? Hindi ka ba anak ni Shaljokno? And I would always say it with so much pride na magiging proud ako kung anak ako ni Shaljokno because Attorney Shaljokno is a human rights activist, a very progressive candidate, and I really hope that we could give him a seat in the Congress this May elections.
Yung pananamit, yung itsura, is that a deliberate effort na maging magkamukha kayo?
Not really, not really. The color maybe. When I ran independently last 2022, we were looking for a fresh color na masarap sa mata, na away from the usual blue, red, yellow campaign ng mga local candidates. And we thought of, Chel's color is actually very chill and very young and very youthful. So nakuha din namin yung vibes na yon from him.
Yeah, well, meeting the Attorney Shaljokno, of course, ano yung mga characteristics niya na siguro pwede mong i-share sa amin na sa tingin mo hindi masyadong alam ng publiko?
Si Attorney Shell, so dinala namin siya sa Taytay a couple of times. Actually, nagulat siya kasi dinala namin siya sa Tianggian. He's the chill lolo that we've painted him before, no? Kala ko parang front lang din yon. But he's very chill, but just like Senator Risa, alam mong malalim ang pagmamahal sa bayan at alam mong may sense lagi yung sinasabi. And yung background niya as a lawyer and as a dean, not many people know that he was the dean of the College of Law, no, sa Ateneo. Parang meron pa na siyang tunog na professor ang dating, no? But not intimidating at all.
Okay. So now, let's talk about your background sa politics, no? You started 2007 as SK chairman ba? Or
I was SK Kagawad actually,
Okay.
and then natanggal sa position yung SK chairperson namin for faking her record. So
Okay.
parang, and as the #1 Kagawad, I assumed office as the SK chairperson.
all right. So that's your first dip into politics. But umalis ka rin eventually because of what you call a systemic corruption.
Yes.
Can you describe that? Anong ibig mong sabihin ng systemic corruption? Ano yung nakita mo na turn off ka sa politics?
Lagi ko nga pong sinasabi, Church, na may love-hate relationship ako sa government. And it started when I was in SK, no? When I became SK chairperson, I was really offered money in exchange of signature. Imagine we were 17, 18 during that time. We cannot even sign official documents yet, no, to release money. But they were really asking us for signatures para mailabas yung pera ng SK for barangay projects, for the SOPs of barangay officials. And as someone na wala namang background sa politics, as someone na lumaki lang sa simbahan, sa school, sa pamilya, that really shook me to the core, no? Parang naisip ko na totoo pala yung sinasabi ng mga magulang ko na sobrang dumi sa politics. And so after my SK stint, I've decided na maybe this is not my calling. Hindi ko siya kayang sikmurahin. So after graduating college, sabi ko, masaya naman talaga makatulong, no? I found that also in SK na maraming pwedeng gawin sa gobyerno ng kabataan. Kaso kung talagang systemic yung corruption within, parang ang hirap niyang sikmurain. So ang ginawa ko na lang noon, I started putting up youth organizations. I joined NGOs in Taytay, and eventually I worked in a corporate foundation after college. Kasi sabi ko, may iba naman palang paraan ng pagtulong sa community without being part of the government.
Okay, since we're talking about the systemic corruption and first-hand experience mo siya, no? Did you ever try telling that to someone else para, alam mo yon, para mapigilan siya at, you know, yung mga gumagawa nito, hindi na
Madami. A couple of times, no? I even mentioned it in a lot of interviews and articles that I was interviewed at. Malaki talaga siyang problema, no? In fact, sa government, even now na nasa munisipyo na ako, makikita mo na yung corruption kasi hindi siya yung ini-imagine natin na may physical na pera na iaabot sa'yo. It happens in so many forms, no? Sa barangay during that time, ayun nga, may SOP kailangan sa budget yung mga nakaupo, na kailangan may 10% daw na i-allocate from the actual budget para magkaroon ng SOP yung mga public officials na nag-isip daw ng project, no? But to me, dapat napupunta sa taong bayan direkta yung pera, no? Yung through projects and programs at hindi na nababawasan para lang kumita yung mga nakaupo.
In 2009, you founded or co-founded Angat Kabataan.
Yeah.
And that's the time that you started doing cleanup activities.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yun. It was in the middle of my SK stint na na-realize ko na ang hirap magtrabaho within the government with all this corrupted system. So, inisip ko, magtayo na lang tayo ng youth organization so that we can still push for the youth agenda in our community, no? So, we established Angat Kabataan, and the same year we were established, we experienced Ondoy.
Yes.
Typhoon Ondoy in 2009, and Taytay as a low-lying area, isa kami sa pinakabinaha. When we were going around the community, we realized na isa sa mga biggest factor ba't kami binabaha ay barado yung mga ilog namin.
Okay.
So, as idealistic young people, we said, why not start cleaning our rivers, no? We started with one creek. It's called the Maningning Creek. It was a source of food and livelihood many years ago. Naabutan pa ng parents ko na naliligo at naglalabas sila dyan. Pero kami, ang inabutan na namin ay napakaduming ilog, no? So, sabi namin, sige, baka pwede naman nating linisin to. Hanggang naging, yung paglilinis namin ay sinuportahan na ng iba't ibang agencies. We wrote letters to, even to the national government. So, pati si DNR, Office of the President, tumulong na dun sa project. And eventually, na-realize namin we're mobilizing thousands of people to rehabilitate the creek. Eventually, this was tagged as a model of river rehabilitation in Southeast Asia.
You started small with very few volunteers.
Yes.
So how hard was it that time?
It was really hard kasi sa community, pag mga bata ang nag-uumpisa, minsan hindi kasi seryosohin ng mga matatanda.
And you experienced that?
We've experienced that a couple of times, and very jaded na din yung community na, anong sa tingin nyo, mababago nyo yan? Lumaki na kami, tumanda kami dito na hindi naman nababago yung sistema. We started with 4 people. including my wife now, no, who's here with me. Pero eventually, naparealize namin sa community na kung hindi tayo magsisimula, wala talagang mangyayari. At hindi siya kayang simulan ng 4 na tao lang. It really needs the work of everyone else, not just the people in the government, but more importantly, the people in the community. So if you ask me what makes the entire cleanup drive very unique is that we involve the people on the ground in the rehabilitation process. Kasi karaniwan, gobyerno ang nagpapalinis ng mga ilog. Mga NGOs ang naglilinis ng ilog. May mga volunteers na naglilinis ng ilog. Pero yung mga taong nakatira mismo dun sa gilid ng ilog ang hindi napapansin. No? Kadalasan sila yung cause ng pagtatapon ng basura doon. Kadalasan din sila ang nakakaalam kung paano ba talaga natin mapapangalagaan at mapoprotektahan yung ilog.
So, yung mga nakatira sa tabi ng ilog, normally kasi nire-relocate sila.
Yes.
So what happened to those people residing along the creek?
2 scenarios, no. May mga karamihan sa nakatira dito sa Maningning Creek, talagang may titulo sila or may tax declaration sila doon sa ano. May konting easement naman doon sa lugar, no. Meron lang a couple of houses na talagang nandoon na sa ilog. Yun yung hinahanapan namin ng relocation. Pero yung mga tao doon, they've been there for the longest time. Pero first time lang na ma-mobilize din sila to rehabilitate the creek. What we did was that we organized them. We started with the mothers na nandun sa gilid ng creek. They're now called Lingap Buhay. They're now an NGO. Yung mga livelihood programs namin na nakukuha sa paglilinis ng ilog, sila na yung beneficiary. Kahit hindi na ako barangay kagawad doon, naglilinis pa rin sila almost every week. Hindi lang ng ilog, pati ng mga kanal at mga kalsada sa amin.
You mentioned earlier that when you were starting, you wrote letters to different organizations to support your cause, government offices. Paano sila nag-respond? Kasi I'm just imagining that, papansinin ba namin to? Oo.
Ganun na ganun ang reaksyon, no? Papansinin ba namin to? Kasi nagsulat kami, umabot kami hanggang sa Malacanang Church, sa LLDA. But we also wrote letters to schools, church groups, NGOs, lahat ng mga organizations na kilala namin sa paligid, sinulatan namin. Paunti-unti yung pag-respond, pero nakita nila, I think, na very consistent kami about it. Yung mga unang cleanup drives namin, may sasamang 100, 200, but the momentum eventually built up. I think people saw that we were really committed to it, no? Na hindi siya one-time thing, na mag-clean up and then goodbye. They saw that we have a plan na we really want to push for dun sa paglilinis ng ilog. And then yung nag-build na ng momentum, ayun nga, dun din sumama na yung mga tao dun sa gilid ng creek na naging bahagi na rin sila nung entire cleanup drive.
I understand, no, na voluntary ito, no? Pero hindi ba magastos din siya?
Yes.
So, paano yun? At saka paano na-maintain ng mga taong tumutulong sa inyo yung livelihood nila?
Initial problem namin yan kasi when we were starting this in 2009, we weren't even a formal organization. Group of friends lang talaga kami na nagsimula ng Maningning Creek, no? Pero we started with solicitation letters. We wrote letters to barangays, the LGU. But eventually, when we partnered with private entities in the municipality, sila na yung nagpapakain sa amin, sa mga volunteers during cleanup drive. It came to a point na yung mga tao mismo sa gilid ng creek ang nagluluto na ng pagkain to provide food for our volunteers. But eventually, yung nare-recognize na yung project namin, nag-isip kami ng business model on how to sustain the entire thing. Nagtayo kami ng livelihood program using bocashables. Bocashables yung ginagamit namin na panglinis ng ilog. It's a Japanese technology using effective microorganisms, no? So, ginawa namin siyang livelihood. Tinetrain namin yung mga nanay sa gilid ng ilog how to make it. Binebenta namin siya. Yung organization namin yung nagmamarket. Ginagawa siya ng mga nanay. So kumikita yung mga nanay sa paligid ng creek. Meron din kaming pang-sustain ng mga initiatives namin.
Okay. So from that organization, bumalik ka sa politika. So kung sinuka mo na yung politics and then nakita mong umuusbong naman yung organization mo, marami kayong nagagawa. So why return to politics?
This was really the turning point. No? In the middle of our rehabilitation, we realized that to sustain the entire river rehabilitation initiative, we need to push for environmental policies. Kasi na-realize namin, kahit anong linis namin, wala pa rin kaming batas on solid waste management, on liquid waste management. Wala kaming ang hina-hina ng batas na nagpaparusa sa mga nagtatapon ng basura direkta sa mga ilog. We tried to lobby sa barangay, we tried to lobby sa munisipyo ng mga legislators na magpapasa ng batas for the environment. pero hindi siya priority. Ang priority daw ay health, education, which are all important. Pero sabi namin, kapag tayo naundoy na naman at ganito pa rin ang estado ng mga ilog natin, we will all be affected. So it started as a joke. One of my friends from Angat Kabataan said, Tobit, bakit hindi ka kaya tumakbo ulit kahit sa barangay lang, no? Para ma-push natin yung mga ordinansa na itinutulak natin para sa Maningning Creek. So sinubukan namin ulit, na-realize namin na nasa gobyerno yung pera. Kasi hirap na hirap kami mag-fundraise for the rehabilitation at nasa gobyerno yung otoridad. Pwedeng gumawa ng mga batas ang gobyerno, pero hindi siya nagagawa. So I ran as a barangay kagawad during that time, and I luckily won as one of the youngest, I think the youngest barangay kagawad during that time. And yun na yung naging turning point ko na, oo nga no, yung gobyerno kadiri in a sense na may systemic corruption. Pero kung magamit siya to push for advocacy policies, to push for the proper usage of funds, marami tayong mga problemang masusolusyonan sa komunidad natin.
Okay, kanina kasi nabanggit mo that, naging template itong project nyo sa different countries.
Yes.
No? How does it feel that yung impact is hindi na lang doon sa Taytay, kundi sa iba't ibang bansa rin?
Yes. When the project was acknowledged by the 10 accomplished youth organizations in ASEAN, na-acknowledge din siya nung YSEALI, no, Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative with President Obama. I pitched the project. We got a $10,000 grant to replicate the project in other Southeast Asian countries.
Like?
And we realized na pareho lang yung problema natin sa Thailand, sa Indonesia, sa Myanmar, sa Laos, na binabaha sila kasi hindi maayos yung mga ilog nila. Again, maraming tao sa Taytay ang nag-iisip na hindi na posibleng mabuhay ang mga ilog. At apparently, sa ibang bansa din gano'n, no? Imposible nating linisin ang mga ilog. But I think our story was a story of proving that it's still possible to rehabilitate our rivers. And young people can really mobilize thousands of people towards a common cause, which was during that time to rehabilitate rivers. So I think our story wasn't perfect, but it was a source of inspiration to many other countries and communities na may mga dead rivers na and creeks.
Ilang terms kang kagawad sa barangay?
Nakadalawang termino akong kagawad.
In those 2 terms, ano yung mga nagawa mo?
I'm very proud to say na I have the record of the most number of ordinances and resolutions sa barangay. No? Hindi kasi alam ng mga tao back then na ang trabaho ng kagawad ay legislator din, no? Magpasa ng mga ordinansa. So marami kaming mga ordinansa na ipasa, particular sa environment, yung solid waste management ordinance ng barangay, apartment regulation ordinance, yung mga common problems like videoke regulation ordinance, among many others, no? Yung pag-mobilize sa mga civil society groups sa barangay, since galing din ako sa civil society group, ginawa namin yon para maging participative yung governance at the barangay level.
Oo. Kasi kung gusto mong umangat sa politika, no? Siguro kung kagawad ka sa barangay, parang the next thing will be barangay chairman.
Yes.
But instead, you ran for
Councilor.
Councilor sa Taytay. So ano yung bakit ganon yung naging jump mo sa politics?
Yung pandemic, I was a barangay kagawad. I would say that the ECQ days were the most challenging and stressful days or months of my life, no? At nasa barangay talaga yung pressure na makapag-serve sa mga tao dahil marami talagang nagugutom. It was a reality. Doon ko nakita na parang may kulang sa mga nakaupo, even at the higher level. No? So what I did then was, together with my organization, Angat Kabataan, nag-raise kami ng funds para ma-augment yung mga hindi nabibigay ng gobyerno sa mga tao. And people took notice of that. Yeah. Na parang, uy, ang galing ni Kagawad, kahit walang budget, nakapag-raise kami around 4.something million, no, including non-monetary donations na naipamigay talaga namin sa mga barangay sa mga constituents namin sa barangay during that time. And na-realize namin na may leadership vacuum kami sa Taytay, that we really lack progressive leaders, na ang trapo pa rin ng sistema sa loob ng gobyerno. At parang may call yung mga tao na, Tobit, sana yung ginagawa niyo sa barangay Santa Ana ay maramdaman din namin sa buong Taytay. We felt na imposibleng manalo ang isang barangay kagawad na walang local party, local slate sa eleksyon sa municipal level, no? Kasi Taytay has a population of around 380,000. Hindi birong tumakbo sa amin. At wala talaga halos na nanalong independent. But we felt na kahit hindi kami manalo noong 2022, gusto lang namin iparating sa mga tao na may alternatibong kandidato na tumatakbo, na hindi lahat ng politiko sa Taytay ay pare-pareho. Na may isang kagawad na maayos ang ginawa sa barangay na gustong makapaglingkod at the higher level so that we can show people that we could do things better.